Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here in Mexico, all the way from Ireland, to tell you the story of Teamer, which is a sports social platform which takes the hassle out of organising sports teams. This is very much this is about community sport. This is about our sons and daughters. This is about ourselves, the people who play football, who play basketball, who play netball, all the different sports. 30, 40, 50 weeks of the year. So I'll just talk you through some of our experiences in building a platform, building a sports social platform, which has grown to 2 million members and which will continue to grow where we've got some ambitious growth plans. I hope. Okay, so just to start off, it's always interesting to look at what has changed in sport, and particularly in the context of today's and tomorrow's summit, technology and the role of technology of sport. But as I was looking back through some old family photographs last year, I found a photograph of my grandfather when he played football in 1927. And if I just up there, that's my grandfather in goal. And in 2014, some 87 years later, there's my son playing football. And the question that I found myself asking was, what has changed? We're talking here the same sports, the same rules, the same challenges, and the same roles within the team. And again, I look at the team and I look at the teams and the people involved. These fine gentlemen here on the end, and these fine gentlemen here, that's my son's coach, Joe, and the team manager, Lars. And actually, the challenges that they have faced and the challenges that they faced back in 87 years ago and the challenges they face now, well, they're largely the same. It is the same sport. But technology is significantly helping how these challenges are met. And Teamer is certainly one of the technologies that's at the forefront of grassroots sport, and it's being experienced by millions of playing members, participants. Every community and grassroots team exists as an offline community. So this isn't a group of people. We aren't trying to change the way sport happens. There are many, many millions of players who are members of local football teams. And every one of those teams exists as a private community offline. And what Teamer is trying to do is trying to enable those people through technology to exist online, to give them a private place from where they can engage, they can communicate, they can share content, etc. In the point of view of the total market opportunity here and the market size, very conservatively, we estimate that there are more than 500 million active team sports participants who are playing sports actively in the markets in which we're live. And in fact, if I was to take that globally, I believe the figure to be significantly higher than that. Looking at technology as an enabler, the first thing we always would have set out to do is ask the question, what is the problem? Technology has to address a problem. And when I think back to when we started Teamer, my colleague and company co-founder, Ken Moulton, Ken was presented with a problem. He was asked at the age of 35 to organize the veterans hockey team. The first thing, I think he was somewhat offended that at the age of 35 he was now considered a veteran. But after he got over the shock of being called a veteran, he set about asking himself, what's the best way to organize the team? And Ken was a technology professional, and he assumed that, well, there must be tools out there to enable me to do this online, where I can manage my team online, where I can do everything online. And when he went and had a look at it, he actually found that there were some early players in the market, but certainly from a technology perspective, they were very much Web 1.0, and they weren't really solving a particular problem. The problem has to be more painful than the perceived pain of the adoption of a technology. And that goes across the board in any technology, not just in sport. And if the perceived pain of taking on the use of a platform or a technology is such that people would rather stay doing it the way they used to do it, well, then it won't work. It won't happen. In this case, we found ourselves asking three questions. The first question we ask ourselves is the solution fixing the problem? And the second question is, does the solution replace an existing behavior? And we started looking at, well, how do teams currently organize? What do they do to communicate? What do they do to share content? What do they do to address the mobilization of the group? And the third question we ask ourselves is, can an average person explain how it works? And that's key in all technology. If it can't, especially consumer web technologies, I think maybe, at an elite level, people have the time and the commitment to sit down and really train up in technology, almost like with enterprise software. But from the point of view of a mass consumer tool, you have to be able to say very simply, can an average person explain how it works? So they were the sort of tenets on which we built Teamer, and which we took what was initially a feasibility project through to being a full-scale operating platform. Okay, so I'm going to say here, first what I'd like to do is to show you a little video. And on the video, we'll meet Troy, and Troy is our Teamer coach. He's the character who represents and embodies the volunteer community team organizer that exists out there. And this is what happened when Troy met and found Teamer. And there is a video coming.
You're the coach of a sports team, or maybe you're a player, or even a parent of a player. Well, let's introduce you to Troy. Troy's in charge of organizing the team's events. But as we all know, that can prove quite difficult. Contacting players and gathering responses is never easy. Last-minute changes to the event always causes confusion. Locations for away games prove challenging. Sharing information is spread out over multiple apps, and it's certainly not easy managing and collecting payments. But then Troy heard of Teamer, so he decided to give it a shot to help manage his team. In a matter of minutes, Troy was all set up. The whole team now had access to a secure and privately shared team site. They can check team statistics, share photos, upload documents like player registration forms, and view an event calendar. For Troy, creating and managing events was much easier. He could notify the team of events and updates easily, and could choose between email, text messaging, and Teamer app notifications. All responses update in real time, and a shared map for events minimized confusion. If an event is cancelled, with one click, all players can receive an email, text message, or Teamer app notification. So, with 2 million members, spread out all over the world, and a dedicated and helpful support staff, no matter what your sport or social group, you'll be taken care of. So take the tip from Troy and take the hassle out of organizing your sports team or social group on desktop, Android and iPhone at teamer.net. Join today for free.
Okay, so that's Troy, and I think everyone in the room knows a Troy, or you may play for a Troy, or indeed you may have children who play for a Troy. And Troy is this great individual, the volunteer, the person who is very much the heartbeat of grassroots and community sports. So in the first instance, we're looking to solve Troy's problem. Again, when you look at the history of communications across amateur sports teams and grassroots sports, what became very clear to us as I explored this further was, once it was all about communication. It was simply about communication, and it was simple forms of communication. Now, however, it is very much about engagement. And again, I started looking back at some of my old files, which I inherited from my grandfather. And this letter you see here is actually an invitation to attend a game. This is I think it was 1926. And the invitation and the way you would receive your notification for your weekend's game was, it would get posted out on the Monday, and you may receive it on the Wednesday or the Thursday. So certainly my grandfather Edward, he received his notifications in this handwritten format. When I was a boy, back in the 70s and early 80s playing football, I used to receive a phone call. The team organizer would ring around once a week when he had the fixture list, and he would ring, and if you answered the phone, you got your notification, and if there was nobody in, perhaps you didn't. In the very early stages of Teamer, when Teamer was first established, which was in 2009, and which was before the advent of mobile apps in particular, we felt it very important that the ability to reach all of the team members, not just by email and web, but also by being able to reach them on their mobile phone, made it an imperative for us to be able to integrate text messaging, SMS messaging. And early Teamer, many of our members would receive their notification by text message. And right up to today, where, which is only, this text message image is probably only from 2 or 3 years ago. But now we're seeing an absolute headlong dive and drive to mobile and to mobile apps. And now what we see is a lot of the communication happening with the members of the platform on their teams around mobile apps. And it is no longer just about communication. It's not simply about, well, when have I got a game? Because when a player receives their notification now through push notification technology, they're actually brought into their app. They're brought into the environment, their private team environment, whereby they can not only find out about whether where they're supposed to be, but they can confirm their attendance, they can share content, they can talk about sharing lifts, they can share photos, documents, right through to some stuff we're doing currently around innovating around payments. As I said, it's all about mobile, and mobile is absolutely key for us and for any technology business. Failure to embrace mobile now will leave you falling very rapidly behind your competition. And if I go back to this particular chart here, this is only in January, the beginning of 2012, when 80% of our traffic was on desktop. 20% of our traffic was on mobile. And over a relatively short period of time, we can see now that more than 70% of our traffic is on mobile, with the desktop version continuing to fall away. And we've had to embrace the move to technology by building Android apps, by building iPhone apps. And right now we've got, I think we've got about 350,000 downloads of our Android and iPhone app, and it's growing very rapidly all the time. Just in terms of, I mentioned engagement being a key driver. There's a lot of engagement that goes on the Teamer platform in terms of around the activity. So just some of the engagement points where players, members, and indeed brands will engage. We've sent event notifications for more than 2.2 million individual events at this stage. Member availability. Member availability has been confirmed for us by our members on more than 30 million occasions. So that's more than 30 million times a player has received their event notification and confirmed their availability or otherwise. We can just move on there. There's more than 1.1 million photographs and videos have been shared across the community. Now, they're not publicly viewable. Each one of those is viewable and is content which is private to the team. And privacy is a very key concern for people, especially around juvenile sport. And one of the great debates exists around open social networking and closed social networking. And the way we would view Teamer, while we don't view ourselves at all as a social network, we view ourselves as a collection of many hundreds of thousands of private communities. And within those private communities, lots of information can be shared privately across the group, and lots of content can be engaged. Documents and forms was something we introduced last year, and right now I think there's about 150,000 documents and forms have been exchanged and shared. And that can be everything from registration, player registration forms, to nutritional advice, to coaching plans, to allowing players and members to get ready for the next session. It's absolutely key that when the team organizer, or indeed members of the team, want to share content, that they're able to upload it into their private team space. But not only upload it into their private team space, when they do so, they want to be able to communicate that to the members. So as soon as one uploads information within the private team space, you get the opportunity to notify the member base that it has happened. There's more than 35, maybe 40 million individual statistics have been captured on Teamer, and that's everything from goal scoring to yellow cards to red cards. Hopefully we don't see too many of them. To player availability, to goals scored, etc. It's a key feature again. And when I move back to receiving the telephone call and how receiving the telephone call has changed to being able to fully engage around the members' participation, everything that they've done, the history. They can look back over historical results. In fact, my own son's team, which has been organised on Teamer since Teamer came into being, my own son's team is actually now a repository of every event he ever played. There's a little bit of information on every event he ever played, when that game took place, and what happened within the game. And the last piece, and I've got this up in a separate colour, which is collecting payments, because I'm going to talk about collecting payments from an innovation perspective. Collecting payments. One of the things that we get told and get asked all the time by our team organisers and by the people who use the platform is, do you know, we'd really love to be able to collect money. Collecting money is a pain in the backside. It's so hard. People won't pay. I don't know who has paid. I get checks. I get cash. I get coins. I get bags of coins. Wouldn't it be great if I could just collect this money in the same ways that I organise my events? So I'll cover off a little bit on the innovation there. Couple of key points here. When one runs a consumer web platform and when one has the responsibility of operating that platform, there's a lot of issues around digital reach and data ownership. Certainly, everyone that uses Teamer, and every time a team comes and starts using Teamer, we collect an awful lot of information and data around their activity. So, for example, we get multi-layered member data around location, country, city, location, postcode, the gender of the playing member, the age profile, their sport played, their role in the team, their contact details, because obviously their team organisers need to be able to contact them back and forth, and indeed their activity profile. We know when they become active and we know when they become inactive. So seasonality in terms of being able to engage with them around the right times of the season. And another final key piece that needs to be addressed, and this is absolutely central to everything we do. Privacy is at the heart of, I'm just going to go back, if we can just go back just one slide there, please. Privacy is at the heart of what all our members engage in. Privacy is key. These are private team spaces. Data is never shared. We make that commitment to all of our members. We don't share data. Yes, we may use some of that data in an aggregated sense to work with our brand partners who wish to engage, but we never share the data, and we make that commitment. In terms of engaging the Teamer community, Teamer is a free-to-use service. It's completely free to use for our members. So that presents its own challenges. How do you fund a completely free-to-use business? How do you fund a development team? How do you fund the growth of the business? Well, we made an early decision in Teamer that we would work closely with brands who are fundamentally at the heart of sport. Tier 1 sponsors, sports product companies, sports nutrition companies, sports hydration companies. And these are just a selection of the brands we work with. We've worked extensively with Lucozade Sport, which would be the #1 sports hydration product in the UK and Ireland. We've worked with Nike. We've worked with MasterCard. I take two examples there, MasterCard and McDonald's. MasterCard and McDonald's are both Tier 1 sponsors in a global football context. And the reach that they crave in working with us as a technology partner is access to the people who are engaged at a grassroots level. If you think of the sporting pyramid, at the very top you have the professional, the elite. At the very bottom, which takes up 90% plus in terms of volume of participation, these are the consumers. So brands sponsor sport and they want to engage with sport, and we work with them to engage in a non-invasive way, I hope. In terms of engaging at key moments, just one example here of how we work with brands to engage with the Teamer community. This first image you see here is a typical Teamer email notification. Somebody receives an email notification around an event. So they're being asked, can they attend or not? In this example here, Lucozade Sport versus water, the challenge was Lucozade Sport versus water, and Lucozade Sport wanting to engage the community around taking different challenges and different tests. In the next image, this is a typical desktop view of the Teamer platform. Again, you can see there's an opportunity for us to engage with the brand and the community. And then the last two images here, on the bottom left-hand side that's a good old-fashioned text message. And, you know, people say, well, you know, text messaging, it's old-school technology. It may be old-school technology, but every text message that leaves the Teamer platform gets opened and read. And if it gets read by the consumer and you're able to put a brand message on that, well, that's a key engagement point for the member. And the last one is just a screen grab of our mobile app. Okay, so in terms of community-driven innovation, we've always adopted a view in Teamer that we must listen to the community. We don't sit in a room full of people with a room of developers going, hey lads, it'd be great, we could do this, we can do this. I mean, I've sat with developers long enough to know that if you leave them in a room and ask them to develop stuff, they will keep developing. And what comes out the far end may not always be representative of what your community wants. So we've always taken listening to our community very seriously. We have a very active support desk. We have very active engagement with our super users, our key organizers, the people who are most active users. We engage them both personally on the phone. We engage them through structured research. But actually, most importantly, we engage them by listening. We listen to what's coming in and out of our help desk all the time. And in listening to what's coming in and out of our help desk, that's where we get our ideas. Because it's very important that when you're developing, that you develop for the many, not for the few. We have had 500 suggestions that we haven't deployed because it was felt that this was an issue that belonged to a particular organizer with a particular set of information. So what we try to do is rank what we receive back from our organizers and develop in that regard. Okay, just move on to the slide there. Okay, so the future for Teamer. Currently, we've got a little over 2 million members. Our primary markets heretofore have been the English-speaking, non-US markets. So we're talking initially out of Ireland, where the company grew from. We're talking the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. Now, we've started to see growth in recent times in the US market, and we're going to focus more on the US market. But we're also focusing on non-English speaking markets. We are going to develop and localize the platform for continental Europe in the form of German-speaking Europe. And we're also localizing and developing the platform for Spanish and Portuguese-speaking markets, which obviously covers Central and South America. So the future for us is we expect we'll grow the platform to more than 9 million members by the end of 2017. And the blue, the top bar on that 9 million members, that's all our new markets. And we certainly see a significant opportunity to develop numbers far in excess of that in Central South America. Okay, so the future of technology sport. I go back to the early slide. There's my granddad and there's my son, and there's 87 years between it. So if I add 87 years to that, I get to the year 2100, which unfortunately, unless there's major advancements in medical technology, we'll see very few of us in this room around to see what happens with sport technology then. The truth of it is, we don't even know where sport technology is going to go in the next 5 years. There's absolutely a revolution going on. Technology will enhance coaching, organization, wearables, hearables, match day technology, pitch and stadium technology, which we're going to hear a lot about over the next 2 days, fan, player and brand communication engagement, payments, and much more. The only certainty I can have in terms of the future is that while there is a revolution going on, there's one thing about the 3 pictures there at the top, and that is that the beautiful game will still be the beautiful game in the year 2100. Thank you very much.